Welcome to another topic right now. We're talking about the Super Bowl. We are talking about the Super Bowl. About the Super Bowl prediction right now. Do you know what was? Do you know who played in the first Super Bowl? It was the first NFL championship. Doesn't have a mostly back in 1967. Before 1967, we usually called the NFL championships, but we rechanged it and called it the Super Bowl. So tell me, what was the first? Who won the first Super Bowl, and who played, and who did they play against? I'll give you guys a couple minutes to figure that out. Simple. The answer is the Green Bay Packers. They're the first guys to win the Super Bowl, and they played against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs were the first guy to win the Super Bowl, play in the Super Bowl in 1967. Man, even I didn't know that back then. Do you know the Green Bay Packers beat 35 to beat the Chiefs 35 to 10? Guess who the MVP was? Bart Starr. And he won the Pro Bowl Hall of Fame back then. He only died about 3 years later in 2019. And he played in the first Super Bowl back then. But I don't think nobody's ever asked him about if he was, back then, or if he was still alive right now. I always want to know if anyone would ask him what it was like to play in the first Super Bowl. I think no one's ever told him that. The Super Bowl is right now. The Super Bowl is the biggest game of all time in the NFL. Mostly, and take a look, and also. There's also something else famous about the Super Bowl too, is the commercials. Each of the commercials that advertise there also increases a lot of money. Increases businesses all the time. So each commercial in the Super Bowl increases profits or money or businesses. Even the movies. Even the future movie trailers are believed there. Michael Bloomberg one time tried to use his campaign video in the Super Bowl, but I don't think it did exactly help him get into the front runner seat. To tell you the truth, I think they should have used Joe Biden in that Super Bowl commercial. He was the one who should have done it. Each Super Bowl is always the truth about what kind. Besides, our goal is to reach 100. If we can reach that, we'll be one individual. If we can reach that, we'll be one happy winner. But no one says it's physically possible to do it. Hey, I got up to 81 minutes, 81. But now, let's see if we can get to 100. That's the longest nobody's ever reached. Tell you the truth, I have no idea how long 2 hours is. Vince Lombardi. In the first Super Bowl, Vince Lombardi was the first was the first head coach to win the Super Bowl back then. They even named the trophy after him. They named the Super Bowl trophy in his honor once. You guys want to know what's like to win those? You know what's like to win that? Each owner, if you own a football team, you'll know what it's like to win that trophy. the owner will know what it felt like when he hands that trophy out. Each guy had to play their hearts out every day out there. But one thing about the Super Bowl, there will be two teams. One team can actually win. Take like 1968 Super Bowl. Where the Packers won the second time in a row. Against 33 and 14. And believe me, that was a tough game back then for the Packers. Before the Raiders moved to Oakland, before the Raiders moved to Los Angeles. Doing an hour video is not easy to think. You have no idea what you're gonna. You have no idea what you're gonna say in 2 hours. But take a look in Super Bowl II. Do you know it cost $54,000 to do a commercial there? At least in 1968, that's a lot. At least in 1968, that's a lot of money in that time. Mostly, it's like a player's salary, a football player's salary to do that commercial. You know, and you weren't. You know, the Super Bowl II was actually the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. And I'm not talking about the college championship game there. The Super Bowl II wasn't played in the Orange Bowl in Miami. They like 1969. Now that was the best game ever. New York Jets take on the Baltimore Colts. And guess who? And that was the day that Kevin James was proud of being a New York Jets fan. You know, Kevin James would have been 3 years old when Joe Namath won the Super Bowl in 1969. Too bad no one could top that in 1969. But I would try to say that was the best game in 1969 for Joe Namath. Tell me, who was the coach? Who was the head coach of the New York Jets who won the Super Bowl III back then? Anyone? You know, holding this is not easy to think. But I'm going to keep my mind off it. And I'll tell you, it's Weeb Eubanks. He also was a Pro Bowl Hall of Famer and took that team in 1969. How long did he coach the New York Jets? He started in 1963, so we're talking about 63, 64, 65, 66, 67. Now he coached that team for 10 or 11 seasons. $1969 Super Bowl. You're never going to lose that. You could never, ever lose that in a million years. You know, the Chiefs were the first team to ever go to the Super Bowl in 1967. But now they have a chance to win it in 1970. And they beat the Minnesota Vikings 23-7. And guess who played in that? Guess who played in that Super Bowl back then? For the Minnesota Vikings. Well, it was Mike Tingert. Well, who was the? Let me give you a trivia question. Who was the Super Bowl MVP for the Kansas City Chiefs back then? I can give you the answer right now. The answer is Len Dawson. Len Dawson was the Super Bowl MVP. He was also a Pro Football Hall of Famer, just like all the others. But being MVP, that takes time and effort to get in that one. Let me take this out for a minute. And take like in Super Bowl V. Who won the Super Bowl in Super Bowl V? The answer is the Baltimore Colts. The Baltimore Colts won the Super Bowl in Super Bowl V. And that was in 1971. Guess who our MVP was? Chuck Howley. The famous Police Academy star played in that, won the Super Bowl one time. And then I can tell you who it is. But if you have to give me a couple minutes for that. And that was Bubba Smith. He took his team to the Super Bowl in 1971. He was also a college football star and took his team to a national championship back then. You know, he should have gotten the Heisman Trophy or Outland Trophy back then. But I think he was kind of cheated out of that one. Tell me, when's the first time the Dallas Cowboys went to the Super Bowl? And that's a Super Bowl, I'll tell you, it was 1972. And that was it was 1972, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Miami Dolphins in 24-3 back then. Yeah, sorry about that. Not easy holding on to this for a while. Holding on to a game, and the Dallas Cowboys took on 24-2. Guess who was the Super Bowl MVP in that time? Can you tell me? You do realize we're in a 2-hour video. You do realize I'm doing a 2-hour video here, so if anyone can answer that question, I'll give you the answers. The answer is Roger Staubach. He took that team to the Super Bowl. Man, he was born in 1942 and he's 8 years old and he's still alive. He was also a college and football Hall of Famer. Do you know when he won the Heisman Trophy? It was in 1963. Back then. You know, the Miami Dolphins was a tough game back then. Guess who coached the Dallas Cowboys? Tom Landry. Well, the Miami Dolphins have been to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl VI. Take like Super Bowl VII. They won it. They won when they beat the Redskins 14-7 back then. And I think that was 1972 or 73. And guess who coached the Miami Dolphins? It was Don Shula. And Jake Scott was the Super Bowl MVP back then. He was a college football Hall of Famer, but not enough to make the football Hall of Fame. Right now, we're trying to reach our goal to 1 hour, 2 hours. And I have no idea how long it is. Right now, we're trying to reach 100. 100 is our time. And I could go, and tell you the truth, it's kind of tough to go all night, all day. Guess who won another Super Bowl in Guess who won another Super Bowl in that time? And this was in 1973 season. Or 74, whichever comes first. That was the Miami Dolphins. Again, they won 2 Super Bowls. And that was against the Minnesota Vikings. I bet you right now Minnesota would give anything to win 1 Super Bowl back then. Well, we're in another Super Bowl right now. C7, C8, C9, C10, C1, C72, C3, C4, C5. Well, right now we're in the 9th or 10th Super Bowl right now. And the Pittsburgh Steelers won their first Super Bowl in 1973. In 75 or 76, but I lost count on that one. Chuck Noll was the guy who took the team to the Super Bowl and for the Steelers. Maybe you guys can tell me who was the MVP of the Super Bowl back then. Anyone? Look it up. I'm already looking up myself, but I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to figure that out. I'll give you guys 10 more minutes. I'm going to give you guys 59 more seconds. Man, I'm really tired. Doing a 2-hour video, not easy, is it? Maybe you guys can tell me yourself if anyone's. Maybe you guys can tell me yourself if anyone ever did a 2-hour video all day. I have to do one again tomorrow or another day, or maybe give myself a day off. Because truth is, I don't know how long is a 2-hour video. Maybe you guys can tell me yourself. Okay, time's up. It's Franco Harris, fullback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, he's still alive. You know, he was born in 1952, and he's 1950, and he's at 72 years old. Man, I can't believe a guy like him was still alive in that time. In 1976, 75 or 76. All right, let's get to another. All right, one more minute. One more minute. You know how many people attended to that game in 1975 or 76? 80,997 people attended that game, and that was in Tulane Stadium in New Orleans Stadium. New Orleans. You know, 8,000 people. You know, that capacity is where 80,000 people can come. It's glad, man, probably could fill a wrestling arena back then. I bet you the WWE could fill that one back then. Well, I think about WrestleMania or or SummerSlam or the Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, at least those guys can pack house. And that's one thing. That's one thing on pay-per-views. You can always pack a sell out a crowd, just like you can do with the Super Bowl too. And these guys make about the same back then. These guys make the same amount. Well, we're now in 1976 Super Bowl or 75 again. 67, 69. Well, we're in Super Bowl 10. Guess who won tell me, who won Super Bowl 10 back then? It was against the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Dallas Cowboys. And I can tell you, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They beat the Cowboys from 21-7 back then. And our MVP was Lynn Swann. And yes, he's a dude. Wow, 2002 and 5. You know, the President George W. Bush made him the chairman of the President Council of Physical Fitness back then. You know, back then Arnold Schwarzenegger was the chairman of the Presidential Fitness back in 1990 and 1993. Well, the guy was Mr. Universe and also a great movie star back then. If he knows how to pump somebody up, it'd be Arnold Schwarzenegger. All right, give me one more minute. Right now, I'm taking a breather. You know, some lights are never easy sometimes. And I don't know if anyone's ever watching right now on this video. You only barely see my face because of sunlight. I can turn the light on right now. But I'm going to give myself a few minutes. Alright, let's get on to the next Super Bowl right now. We're in Super Bowl 11 against the Oakland Raiders versus the Minnesota Vikings. You know, the Oakland Raiders versus Oakland Raiders beating the Minnesota Vikings 32-14 back then. You know, John Madden took that team. The famous John Madden took that team. He will be missed. He died on December 28th, 2021. And he was the greatest football coach of all time. And he took his team to the Super Bowl. And he was a football Hall of Famer. Greatest coach of all time. And also, he was also the greatest broadcast journalist ever. Well, at least the guy had football experience. You know, one thing about being a coach, you don't just become a coach. Sometimes you have to have experience. Even if you made the team, even if you were dead last, even if you were a bench warmer, at least you'll have some coaching experience back then. And guess what? In Super Bowl 11, it was 1977. Guess who was the greatest broadcast besides John Madden? There was another broadcast journalist who played the 1977 or 78 Super Bowl back then. He also was a friend of Michael Jordan's, and he also was the greatest broadcast journalist of all time in basketball and football and NBC Sports. Do you want to know who he is? I'll give you guys another 50 minutes. I'm going to give you 59 minutes if you can answer this question. But who was the broadcast journalist from NBC Sports? He's also the guy who was famous for interviewing Michael Jordan. He also broadcast from not just the NBA, but the NFL and other sports too. He was also married. He used to be married to Felicia. Allen, who was on the Cosby Show. Wonder if you guys can answer this question. Well, I'll give you the answer right now. You guys don't know? It's Ahmad Rashad. Ahmad Rashad was the greatest greatest sportscaster of all time. Yeah, he was drafted in the NFL in 1972. He was also a college football star. He was Oregon Sports Hall of Fame and also first team All-American in 1971. And he played in the University of Oregon football team back then. He also hosted the NBA Inside Stuff. You know, first with Willow Bay, then Summer Sanders back then. He was the greatest coach of all time, greatest NFL player of all time, and greatest broadcaster in pro football and pro basketball. Too bad he doesn't broadcast college games. Just only pro basketball and pro baseball. You know, this guy invented that. This guy invented the NBA. This guy was the master of NBA sports. Well, there was also others like Bob. I couldn't remember the guy's name, but there was also Marv Albert. Well, it's Bob Costas. He hosted the NBA and NBC, the NBA on NBC from 1990 to 1997, and also did the play-by-play in '98 through 2000 back then. Marv Albert also hosted with Bob Costas back then. Well, right now, I wish I could tell you about the NBA's prediction right now about who's going to win, who might have a chance to win the NBA Finals this year in 2023. But I'm going to leave that one out right now. Right now, we're talking about the Super Bowl and the World Series right now. Yep. It's 1978. How many Super Bowls are there right now? Back then, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. Well, this is Super Bowl 12. And guess who's playing? Guess who won Super Bowl 12 back then? I'm gonna give you guys 59 minutes or 65 minutes, whichever comes first. Well, 59 more seconds, and I'll tell you who won Super Bowl 12, and I'll tell you who played. It's the Dallas Cowboys versus Denver Broncos. Who won Super Bowl 12 back then? I'm gonna give you 59 minutes. I'll give you another 59 minutes if you guys want another breather. So we'll wait until we reach 31 minutes. Right now, well, I'll tell you. Now it's the Dallas Cowboys. They beat the Denver Broncos 27-10. Guess who the MVP was? All right, come on. I'll give you guys another two. I'll give you guys I'll give you guys 2:59 minutes, 59 seconds. So I'm gonna give you guys another 59 seconds. Maybe you could tell me who won the Super Bowl. Who won Super Bowl 12? Who was who was the MVP of Super Bowl? Who was the Super Bowl MVP? Man. Sometimes I was kind of the urge that we're never gonna make it through an hour. I don't even know if I can make it to 100. But we are gonna try. See if we can do it. Besides, our goal is to reach the 100 and reach 2-hour video. Well, here it is. The answer is Harvey Martin. He was our defensive end and for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, I guess just because he was Super Bowl MVP doesn't mean he has a chance to win to the Pro Bowl Football Hall of Fame. Football Hall of Fame. Tell me, how long did he play for the Cowboys? He started in 1973, so we're going to count. 74, 75, 76, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. That's 10 or 11 years. He will be remembered as the best man on the rolls. Right now, we're in Super Bowl 13. And the year is January 21st, 1979. That's my... And guess what? The Dallas Cowboys are back in the Super Bowl again in January of Super Bowl 13. And they're playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who won that game? I'm going to give you guys 36 minutes. When it hits 36, I'm going to 36.00. I'll tell you who won. But figure out who won Super Bowl 13 against Pittsburgh Steelers against Dallas Cowboys. You'll have to figure this out yourself. Okay, come on. Tell me, who won the Super Bowl Who won the Super Bowl 13th between the Dallas Cowboys versus the Pittsburgh Steelers? Man. Tough game, isn't it, huh? And tough topics. Well, it's against the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Dallas Cowboys 35-31 in Super Bowl 13. And guess who the MVP back then is? You may know him in Fox Sports, NFL Fox Sports. And he also been on a lot of movies or TV shows. So I'm going to give you guys around 40. So I'm going to give you guys 4 minutes. 37, 38, 39, 40. But I can tell you, this quarterback was the greatest. He was also not just Super Bowl MVP, but he was MVP too. He also was a Hall of Famer. If you know who he is, then you can tell me. So I'm going to give you guys around 40 minutes. 40.00. Tell me, who was Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 13? Against the Pittsburgh Steelers or versus Dallas Cowboys? I know you guys are tired, and so am I. But our goal is to reach 2 hours. Half the times I don't even know if we are in 2 hours. Well, I can tell you right now, this is only 37 minutes, so... Right now, it could be anyone's ball game. You know what every quarterback always says when they hike the ball? Mostly there were just numbers, like 12, 34, 55, 18, 56, 16. Hike. And the quarterback throws the ball to the wide receiver or the running back. The quarterbacks are like pitchers. They throw the football about like 50 or 100 yards from here for the wide receiver to catch it. Or halfback, or a cornerback, or a running back. I'll tell you like Joe Montana or Steve Young when they throw the ball like 50 yards from here or 80 yards from here. That's where Jerry Rice catches it. It's like pure art form every time Jerry Rice catches a football and runs about 99 yards to the end zone. It's really kind of like magic when Jerry Rice does it. And I'm sure this MVP actually threw it to every great wide receiver in the world. Well, we still have some more time left. Tell me, who was the greatest wide receiver? Who was the guy? Tell me right now. Who is the Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 13? Your famous quarterback. Your guy from Fox Sports anchor. All right, time's up. I'll tell you right now. The answer is Terry Bradshaw. Was the Super Bowl MVP. Our Fox Sports guy. Greatest football. He was the greatest quarterback of all time in Louisiana. And he was also a Pro Football Hall of Fame star and also Also, he was a college football star in Louisiana Tech. How long did he play for the Pittsburgh Steelers? He started in 1970. So, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. That's 13 or 14 seasons. 13 and 14 years. He played in 1970 and then in 1983. Do you know how much those commercials cost in 1976, 79? $185,000. That's how much it cost back then to make that Super Bowl back then. Right now, we're in Super Bowl 14 and the start of the 80s. Well, we're in Super Bowl 14. Well, right now I'm not going to bore you in details right now, but guess who won Super Bowl 14? It was January 1980, January 20th, 1980, against Pittsburgh Steelers versus Los Angeles Rams. Who won that team? Who won the game? So I'm going to give you, like me, I'm going to give you like the 8 more minutes. Tell me who won. Man, I have to get some sleep. Well, tell me who. This is the beginning of the 80s. This is not January 20th, 1980, in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. 103,985 people sat in the Rose Bowl to watch this game. Man, that's a lot of seats. People must have stand up a lot. You know, even in those front 50-yard line seats would cost a fortune. When we reach the 50 mark, I will tell you who won the Super Bowl. Who won Super Bowl 14? Well, we're in 44 minutes right now. It's 44:06 now. Right now our goal is to reach 50 minutes. 50 minutes right now. Right now we have to reach 50, and I will tell you who won against the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Los Angeles Rams. Before the Rams moved to St. Louis, they were in LA back then. You know, mostly St. Louis didn't have a lot of pro football teams. One time St. Louis had football teams, is usually in the college area. You know, besides we had the Cardinals and we had the Cardinals and the St. Louis Blues back then, but we didn't have a pro football team before they moved. Well, each individual. No, each individual will have to figure out what thing they can do. Well, here's well, let me tell you one thing. The same guy I spoke about also was a second-time Super Bowl MVP. Can you believe that? But I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to give you a name, and I'm not going to give you his name in this one. You guys may figure it out. You guys may figure out who won Super Bowl 15 or 6, Super Bowl 15 or 14 in January 26th, January 20th, 1980. Guess how much the commercial cost back then? $222,000. Man, that's how much it cost to do a Super Bowl commercial in that time back then. Thinking, hey, man, I don't think even a doctor can make 500,000 a year, but they're not willing to make 220,000. They're not willing to spend. I don't think they're not willing to spend $222,000 just to advertise their practice in the Super Bowl. Yep, each game is always out there every day. Remember, I will tell you who won. I'll tell you who won when we reach the 50th mark. The 50th mark. You know, to tell you the truth, the guy who I also can give you another spoiler out there. I can give you another fact trivia. The guy who played in the Hunter TV series that was written by Stephen J. Cannell. I don't know. Well, he didn't create it, but he did produce it. The Hunter TV, the guy who did the Hunter TV series. He was in the 1980 Super Bowl. He played in the 1980 Super Bowl back then. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that in a minute. Well, we're almost at 50 right now. I don't know if anybody's watching. But we're trying to reach our goal to 2 hours. And right now, even if it reaches 1 minute, I don't even know even if it reach 100 right now. All right, we're in 50. I'll tell you who won. Guess who won? It's the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Los Angeles Rams 31-19 back then. Can you believe that? It was in January 22nd, January 20, 1980. And our MVP, Terry Bradshaw, from the announcer from Fox Sports, was our Super Bowl MVP twice again as a quarterback. you believe that? Guess the guy who played who played in Hunter, the Hunter TV series, cop show. What it was in the January 20th, 1980 Super Bowl. Who played? And that's Fred Dryer. He's 76 years old right now, and he's the College Hall of Fame star. You know how long did he play for the? You know how long did he play for the Super Bowl? Play for the NFL. He started in 1969, 69, 70, 71 for the New York Giants. Then when he was traded to the Los Angeles Rams in 1972, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81. He played 13 or 14 seasons, 12 or 13 seasons back then. And he was a college football Hall of Famer back then. You know, just like Bubba Smith, when he played for the Baltimore Colts, took his team to the Super Bowl, and he was in all the 6 Police Academy movies. He was one of the greatest athletes of all time. There are other Super Bowls out there, but why bore you? But our goal is to reach 100. So, welcome to the next Super Bowl. This is January 25th, 1981. You've seen Invincible, right? Tell me who was the head coach tell me who was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles in 1976, and also took this team to the Super Bowl. Took this team to the Super Bowl back then, and he also took an unknown in that movie, and he was played by Mark Wahlberg. Once we reach 60 minutes, once we reach 60, I will tell you. And guess what Super Bowl we're in? We're in January 25th, 1981. So we're in Super 1967, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81. We're in Super Bowl 15. And once we reach the 60th mark, I will tell you who the head coach is and who won Super Bowl 15. This head coach who Invisible went to coach the Super Bowl, coached his team to a Super Bowl. They didn't win, but they went there. And believe me, the Eagles was in a losing streak for a long time back then. Well, who do you think Who do you think won in Super Bowl 15 or 16? In January 25th, 1981. That was Sunday. It was against the Oakland Raiders versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to give you guys until 60 minutes. When we reach the 60th mark, we will tell you who won. But like I said, our goal is to reach 100 minutes. Well, I wonder if anyone can figure this out right now. I know you guys are practically bored right now, or probably logging out, or probably leaving right now. But don't be. You're still a viewer. I'm sure there are more viewers out there if anyone's watching right now. And I don't know if still this. I don't even know if this counts as a watch hour. But I did promise one thing: watch hour, and whether I get a watch hour for this or another one. My goal is to reach 100. That is my goal right now. Even if this was 2.0, I'll try again next time for that. I don't even know if that could think any. I have no idea if I can actually go that far. But you never know. Guess who sang the national anthem in Super Bowl 15 back then? It was Helen O'Connell. I don't think you know who she is. Even I don't know who she is. You know, one thing about Super Bowls, it's always about the halftime shows. You love those halftime shows. Well, take like the guys who sing the national anthems. You barely remember. Most of you barely remember who sang those national anthems back then. You know, in 1997, I watched a rock band called Hanson sing the national anthem back then. That was kind of cool. Even the cast of Glee got to sing the national anthem in that time. I think it was either the Super Bowl or the World Series, but at least they got to sing it there. That's what made them famous. One thing about the New Directions, you never know what's going to happen right now. You know, each player can, each team's right now. We're almost that close right now to tell you who won the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 15. And who was the head coach who took his team, who got his team to the Super Bowl back then. They didn't win, but he got them to the Super Bowl. They got them to the Super Bowl back then. And he was the star in that. He was the star in that movie. That was a biopic about him. We're not there yet, but we're only 59. Right now, we're 59 seconds right now. So I got another. We have 59 more seconds left. Right now we're trying to reach our goal to 100 minutes. I did that once. I reached 81.00, but truth is, I don't know how to get to the 2 hour mark. I don't even know when you do live videos. I don't even know what is the. I have no idea how far we are in the 2 hour mark. But I'm going to see what happens when we get there. Yep, we're almost. All right. The answer was the Oakland Raiders, who beat the Philadelphia Eagles 27-10 in that Super Bowl. And guess who our head coach who took that team, who took that team who helped that team get to the Super Bowl, and that was Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil was the greatest coach of all time back then. He's the one who Vince Pauly got to the Green Bay Packers in 1976 and gave a chance. He gave an unknown a chance to play in the NFL. We don't mostly how a lot of times NFL players are usually recruited right out of college. Dick Vermeil was one of the greatest football coach of all time. He took that team to the Super Bowl in 19. He's only been to the Super Bowl twice. In January 25th, 1981, and also 1999, and also January 2000 or 2001. I barely don't remember, but it was. But he did also help another unknown out back then. But I'll get to that. Let's get on to the next Super Bowl. Well, the next Super Bowl is in January 24th, 1982. And guess who took that team? And guess who was our Super Bowl MVP back then? He was our quarterback for the Super Bowl. He was our greatest quarterback of all time in 1982. He also played at the University of Notre Dame with Rudy Ruger once. He also He also was in the 1976 or 77 Super Bowl national championship for Notre Dame back then. I won't tell you that. I won't give you a name right now because once we reach the 70th mark, I will tell you who was our MVP and who was the guy who took that team to 1977 Notre Dame national championship. But the 1982 Super Bowl was on January 24th, 1982. And what Super Bowl is this? 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. Yep, this is the 16th Super Bowl. Neat, huh? Right now I should give you a World Series topic, but I can only give you one right now. I'd like to show you. But right now I don't have time for that right now, because right now I'm gonna give you guys this. Once we reach the 70th mark, I will tell you what team who won the Super Bowl back then, and I will tell you who our Super Bowl MVP was. He was the greatest quarterback of all time and played the University of Notre Dame national championship team. He was the greatest quarterback. Our quarterback was the great. Threw a lot of great touchdown passes back then. There were others out there. Like Terry Bradshaw. He threw a lot of great touchdown passes back when he played for the Steelers. This guy was our own individual out there. This guy invented the NFL back then, but there were others, like Roger Staubach when he played for the Dallas Cowboys. And he was the Heisman Trophy quarterback to do that. There are some guys who won. Some of the guys who did win the Heisman Trophy did get to play the NFL or tried to once. Some may not. Some of them may not went to the Super Bowl. Some do. Like Charles Woodson, he got to play in the Super Bowl or won one. Like Desmond Howard, he played in the University of Michigan, and he was in the Super Bowl. And take like Matt Leinart, he was in the Super Bowl too, but he didn't play. But he was a college football star there. I wish I could tell you who won, but we're right now. I made a promise that we reached once we reach the 70th mark, I will tell you who won. And right now, we don't know if anybody's watching right now. Well, that'll be up. Besides, like I said, it's up to you. Besides, our goal is to see if we can get a 2-hour video. Make a 2-hour video. Well, I could do another one tomorrow. See if I can try again. Or because I have no idea how to get to a 2-hour video, because even this thing reaches 100, I probably have to try again if it reaches the 2-hour mark. And I don't know what to say in 200 reached the 200 mark back then. By the way, tell me, who do you think... by the way, I can tell you who sang the national anthem in Super Bowl 16 in January 24th, 1982. And I can tell you, that is Diana Ross. I don't know if she ever sang this Super Bowl halftime shows. Those shows were really popular back then. Right now, they don't show a lot of Super Bowl halftime shows back then, but they did. Man, hope you guys are not tired right now. I know I am right now, but I know you guys are considering shutting down right now because I don't know. I'm trying to. We are all trying to reach our goal of 2 hours. You know, I already, I always feel like I did another 2 hours last time, but I didn't know if that would count, but well, at least I'm going to try again and see if I can do it again. Because I never knew what the 2-hour video was like. Right now I'm about to lose my voice pretty soon. Right now, if anybody who can run 100 yards in football all the way to the end zone without getting tackled, it's practically amazing. Mostly Desmond Howard did the punt return back then. When he ran 100 yards, nearly ran 90 yards or 100 yards. When he did that punt return back in the Super Bowl. In Super Bowl 97. We only have 2 more minutes left. We have 2 more minutes until we reach our goal of 70. Once we reach 70, I will tell you who won. But our goal is to reach 100. I don't know if that counts as a 2-hour thing, because I don't even know. Well, right now it's well, right now we are counting the days. Doing a 2-hour video is not easy to think. Well, we're almost there. Okay, guess who won the Super Bowl 16? That was the San Francisco 49ers, who beat the Cincinnati Bengals from 26 to 21. Bill Walsh was our coach back then. And guess who our MVP was? Our MVP quarterback. The one and the only Joe Montana. Joe Montana was the greatest football quarterback of all time. He took that team to the national championship in Notre Dame with Dan Devine, who coached him. How many years did Joe Montana play for the Super Bowl? Played in the NFL? He started in 1979. I think that was the day he got drafted. Too bad that was the third round, and he was the pick 82. Sometimes I wish I would have should have been the first pick back then. Anyway, let's count. 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 6, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. That's like 16 or 15 seasons he played for the 15 or that's 16 or 17 seasons that he played for the playing the NFL. You know, he was traded in 1990. He was traded to the Chiefs in 93 through 94, and he helped turn that team around too back then. And guess what? They played in the Pontiac Silverdome, and 81,270 people got to see Joe Montana win the Super Bowl in 1982. Can you believe that? Well, here's our next Super Bowl, the Super Bowl 17 or 16. I lost count. But guess who our team? Guess who won? Guess who won the? Guess who won the Super Bowl 16 or 17? It was against the Miami Dolphins versus the Washington Redskins. And once we reach our 80th mark, I will tell you who won the Super Bowl back then. Well, just check our MVP. He is a fullback, but a good player too. Remember, we're gonna once we reach the 80th mark, we'll tell you who won. Who won the Super Bowl against the Washington Redskins versus the Miami Dolphins. You know, it costs $400,000 to do this commercial. And what Super Bowl are we talking about? It's in January 30th, 1983. So 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. So we're talking about Super Bowl 17, January 20th, 1983. Actually, it's January 30th, but I lost count on that one. And guess who sang the national anthem? Leslie Easterbrook. Do you know who she is? Well, at least I know she, well, at least you know who she is. She is the one who was on the Police Academy movies. She was great, a great actress back then. If anyone could do the movie, if anyone could play Lieutenant Debbie Callahan, it would have been her. Too bad they never showed us who was in the Super Bowl, who did the halftime shows back then. Well, there's something interesting you never knew. You know, after the game, they did the premiere of the A-Team back then in 1983. They did the premiere in the A-Team on January 23rd, 1983. That's like before the game started, before the Super Bowl started back then. Can you believe that? It's like the Wonder Years in 1988. That was the day when it was on the Super Bowl back then. It was in the middle of January when that game started out. You know, I could skip to that part right now if I can tell you. But I don't think it doesn't count anyway. Each game has always been individualized about who's going to play and who's going to win. Our fullback, our fullback who won the Super Bowl MVP, was the greatest guy in 1983 to play in the Super Bowl. Well, once we reach the 8th mark, I will tell you who won the Super Bowl back then. Because right now I'm giving you guys some breathers. But don't go anyway and stay on this channel. Imagine being alive for about 76 minutes. Well, I can tell you we're reaching our goal right now, but I don't know about that. Because it's impossible, because no one knows how long we're doing this. Even our commercial from 1983 what cost $400,000. Yeah, $400,000 commercial in the Super Bowl. Man, I bet you a lot of businesses paid a lot of money to get their commercials out there. Boost their business every time when you pay it. Well, one thing about when you do a Super Bowl commercial, when you do a commercial for the Super Bowl, pay first, then they get started. You don't do it right away. They don't pay you after they pay you before. Mostly just like earning revenue. They expect to pay first, not in advance, right now. Man. Some of us are practically tired right now. Well, we're all tired in 1983. Man, we're all tired. Yep, we're in 79, so we got 59 more minutes left before we reach 80. Well, there's always one thing about coin tosses. Sometimes you can toss, when they toss them in the air, we don't know who's going to call it. I can call it heads, but somebody might be tails, so I lose, and I win. I lose, and they win. Besides, you can do it 10 or 20 times. You can call it 10 or 20 times, and sometimes it takes a lot of practice to call it. It's like call it heads. Will I get the heads? Even if it's on a two-headed coin right now. Well, here we are. In Super Bowl 16 or 17, guess who won? It's the Washington Redskins that beat the Miami Dolphins 27-17. Joe Gibbs was the head coach. And our MVP, our Super Bowl MVP was John Riggins. He was our fullback. And he was a Football Hall of Famer back then. Do you know how long he played in the NFL? 75, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. He took a few years off after that. Came back. He played in 82, 83, 84, 85, 4 more seasons left. The dude was like Michael Jordan when he came back. The dude was like Michael Jordan when he came back. I know we haven't spoken about the World Series back then. But I want to give you one World Series. I'm not going to tell you. Right now I'm going to skip to the last. Well, I'm going to skip to the other boring one because we're almost out of time. We're about to, because besides, we're in a 2-hour video right now. Plus, I'm already up to 81 minutes. So, right now we're doing this Super Bowl, and because sooner or later I want to get to the World Series. Well, welcome to February 2nd, 2020. Who won the Super Bowl in February 2nd, 2020 versus Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers? And believe me, back in 1970 it was a drought back then for the Chiefs. Back then for anybody. Actually, I accidentally said that right now. But I could be wrong. But anyone didn't listen to me back then. That I was wrong. But I don't want to give you out. I am not going to give you that answer right now. You'll have to figure this out yourself. Once we reach the 9th mark, I will tell you who won the Super Bowl in 2019, February 2nd, 2020. Our MVP was also our quarterback. The guy. Do you know on the January 20th, February 2nd, 2020, it was played by the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida. And there was and the attendance was 62,417 people were there. Even that was between COVID. And that was during COVID hours. The commercial cost them $5.6 million. Man, you gotta be like Bill Gates or Sylvester Stallone to pay for a commercial like that if they want to advertise. There were a lot of commercials out there back then. I think in February, in 2020, even Michael Bloomberg did his presidential campaign, but he never made it to the front runner seat back. I think he should have paid for Joe Biden's presidential campaign in the Super Bowl back then. There were a lot of great movie trailers back then that played, but I don't know if any of them could have been a box office champ back then if anyone watched. Anyone could put a book trailer there, a book ad in the Super Bowl, now unless anyone's going to cough up $5.6 million to pay it. Guess who sang the national anthem in February 2nd, 2020? That's Demi Lovato, greatest actress and singer of all time. She won a lot of platinum records, and she was really good. Everyone loved her. She had to go through, she was going through a tough time back then, but she wanted to be her own person, her own individual back then. Well, once we reach the 9th mark, we'll see what happens back then. Well, I know we're all bored right now, even I am. But we are trying to do 100 minutes. And I don't know if this does count for 2 hours. No one knows. But we are doing the best we can. To tell you the truth, I think if Joe Biden picked Michael Bloomberg as his running mate, I think he may have would have had a chance to win. I don't know. Do you think Michael Bloomberg could make a great president? No. It worked for Donald Trump back in 2016. Well, there were reasons on why. There was reasons. I don't think why Hillary Clinton didn't win. Even it wasn't just the email scandal. A lot of times, I think they don't want to go through another art case back then. Besides, any president right now could make one bad choice that could affect the country. Besides, sometimes they could say one thing that can get them kicked out of office, and also make one wrong decision. Take like our halftime show in 2020. I'm not going to give you every name, but I'm going to give you one. Jennifer Lopez got to perform in this halftime show back then. I bet you guys are still tired, huh? Well, we all are. But like I said, I'm helping you get. Right now. I'm trying to reach my goal of 100 minutes. 100. Not easy trying to do this, are you? It's not easy trying to do this, is it? Doing 100. Right now, I think it will be like a clock, like 1-0, 1-0-0, and it'll be like this right here. We could all try that sometimes. See if we can reach 1 or 2 hours. Right now, let's just see if we can reach 100 right now. And pretty soon we are almost there. If we are. Sometimes I don't even know if we can reach 2 hours. It's really, people say it's physically impossible, but we are doing everything we can to reach it. Let me ask them, can you guys do it? Reach this long? Right now we're almost there to 90. Well, here it is. Guess who won the Super Bowl against Kansas City Chiefs versus San Francisco 49ers? The Chiefs beat the 49ers 31-20. And Andy Reid was our head coach back then. He was a good coach back then. And our Super Bowl MVP was Patrick Mahomes. Kind of hard to pronounce his name. How long do you think he played for the Super Bowl? How long was in the NFL for the Chiefs? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So 23. So this might be a seventh or so this might be a 7th or 8th season in the NFL right now. Can you believe that? let's get to the World Series. The 2016 the World Series, I promise you. It was against the Chicago Cubs versus the Cleveland Indians. They beat the Cubs 4-3. They beat the Cubs 4-3. It was a close call back then. Guess who our MVP is for the Chicago Cubs? I want to give you guys a couple minutes. I want to give myself a minute. I want to give you guys until when we reach the 100 mark. I'll tell you who won the World Series, who was our World Series MVP, and who our World Series MVP is. Well, one thing they don't tell you here is they don't tell you who sang the national anthem in Game 1. You know, they usually tell you in the Super Bowl, but not in World Series. Look, for me, in the Super Bowl, you only need to play one game. Mostly in championship games and football, basketball, and hockey, you have to win 4 games to get to the. You need to win 4 games to get there. You like that? Well, this is going to be a. Once we reach the 100 mark, we'll see what happens if you want to keep going. Because we don't know if I'm in the 2 hour yet. You know, I already told you the Cubs won in 2016 against the Cleveland. In the Game 1, Cleveland beat Chicago in Game 1, 6-0. In Game 2, Chicago beaten Cleveland 5-1. Even in Game 3, Cleveland beaten Chicago and 1-0. So it was 1-1 back then. So it was 2-1 back then. Game 4, Cleveland beaten Chicago 7-2, and that's 3-1. Cleveland versus Chicago beat Cleveland in Game 5, 3-2. Even the Cubs beaten Chicago. Even the Cubs beat the Guardians, or I could say the Indians, beating the Cubs. You know, Chicago beat Cleveland 2-1. This was Game 7. 38,104 people got to see. Got to see this game in Cleveland. Too bad they never got to see their team win the Super Bowl back then. This was against all the marbles. But the Cubs beating the Guardians or the Indians 8-7 back then. They never showed us the. They never showed us who won the Super Bowl, They never showed us who sang the national anthem back then. Well, it could be anybody. Right now, I can give you one. Right now, I can give you one World Series, but once we reach the 100 mark, I'll see what we can do. Well, I know you're tired, and so am I. Well, they played in Cubs versus the Guardians or Indians. The Cubs are in Wrigley Field, and also the Guardians or Indians are on Progressive Field. Those are and believe me, that's a great that's a great stadium back then. You know, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Minnesota Twins have indoor arenas. So do the Marlins, but when they have a rainy day, mostly they usually have a lot of rainy days back then. But luck for me, they have an indoor arena too. Sometimes they'll close it a lot of times, kind of like what the Blue Jays would done. I'd like to tell you who the MVP is, but right now we have to reach our. Right now our goal is to reach 100. Remember, besides, this is the team that just like the Cubs, they've been in a drought for a long time. They got to the National League Championship back then, but never won it. Well, look for me, the Cleveland Guardians or Indians back then got to the World Series in '95. At least take like the Chicago White Sox. Mostly they never pictured it as an own individual team back then, all because of the 1919 baseball scandal back then. But you know what? They got over it. And they did got to win the 2005 World Series back then. Well, we're 98 minutes right now. Wow. Really amazing, isn't it? To reach 98 more minutes. I bet you guys are really tired right now. I said that a few times, but like I said, my goal is to reach 100. My goal is to reach 2 hours. And I don't know if it's possible to reach that far. Giving ourselves a breather is not easy to think. You know, our topic is about the World Series. Even with the New York, because we don't know who might have a chance to go to the series in October or November. Because the New York Yankees are in the division championship against the Cleveland Guardians or Indians, and they don't know if they can beat the. They don't even know if they could. They don't even know if we don't even know if the New York Yankees can actually beat them, or we don't know if the Cleveland Guardians could, because it's anyone's ball game right now. Right now, if I was me, don't touch anything. I'm talking about my phone, because right now, when I keep my goal to reach 100, right now we gotta stay where we are. Well, how about that? Reach 100. I was kind of thought it'd be like a 1 o'clock thing or a 2 minute thing. You believe that? Anyway, our MVP was Bob Zaborst. And I don't know how long he played for the major leagues, but 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. He played 15 seasons for the Super Bowl. He played 15 seasons in major leagues. And he was our World Series MVP back then. Well, he was a 3-time All-Star from 2009, 13, and 16. I don't think that doesn't get him. I don't know if that will give him a chance to get in the Hall of Fame back then, but could if he put his mind to it. Well, he could if he put his mind to it if he want to. Well, like I said, it's up to him if he wants to do it. Well, that's all the time I have right now. I don't know if I'm in 2 hours or 1 hour, But that's it today. I'm Bobby Cinema. Goodbye and good luck.